get much mail?
Do we get much?
Yeah.
This year we're averaging about 5,000.
And where does it come from?
All over the world. Poland, Czechoslovakia, Japan, America.
Do you get much mail?
Do we get much?
Yeah.
This year we're averaging about 5,000.
And where does it come from?
All over the world. Poland, Czechoslovakia, Japan, America. England.
Yeah, an example. Where have you got?
I have.
Loads of stuff.
I've got one here, which is a real puzzle.
Yeah.
There's some food labels attached to it, so they're probably something to do with the case.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, as you can see, it's not actually written in English, so we're a bit stumped.
The case of the Chinese tinned salmon. That's what it is. How extraordinary. It's fascinating, Nicky. I suppose you love the job, do you?
Oh, yes, I do.
Yeah. Do you feel slightly, you know, balmy doing it?
No.
Really?
Of course not. I'm honoured.
Don't find people looking at you strangely in the old building society?
Depends who knows.
Do you find people looking at you strangely, Stanley, after all these years? I mean, what's this collection you have of the Sherlock Holmesiana?
The most important thing is a cornerstone that all collectors go for, and that is Beaton's Christmas Annual for 1887.
Strike a light.
That contained A Study in Scarlet, the first publication of A Study in Scarlet, and it introduced Sherlock Holmes to the world.
Extraordinary, and there's an ad for Beecham's pills on the back that I can see.
That's right, yes.
It's a marvellous antidote worth a guinea a box. Extraordinary, that must be worth quite well. We won't ask how much it's worth, because you've got it in your possession, haven't you?
It's worth enough to keep in a bank, anyway.
Yeah. Do you keep it in a bank?
Yes.
Oh. But, Stanley, what is the appeal of Sherlock Holmes? There have been great detectives in history, great books written about great detectives. Admittedly, Conan Doyle was a master, but none of Agatha Christie's characters, for instance, like Miss Marple or even Poirot, have quite the same cachet as Holmes. I mean, what's the appeal of it?
I think, first of all, Conan Doyle was a splendid storyteller.
Yeah.
He could leave out a lot of the packing. He could get to the point very, very quickly, just in a few lines, and he created atmosphere. Some of the stories are perhaps not as good as some of the plots are not as good as the later ones. But in creating this atmosphere, I think he fascinates us, and he's built this character and leaving all the other characters a little bit in the background.
But people have an obsession with Holmes. Somebody was saying, we were talking about, doing the research for this, and talking about Moriarty. There's a town in Moriarty in Texas.
That's right.
And Holmes fans go there every year on the anniversary of the great man's death and throw cowpats.
Yes, they're supposedly desecrating his grave, that's it.
Desecrating Moriarty's grave. It's a bit hard on the inhabitants of Moriarty, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Any Christmas presents for? Do you get presents for Sherlock?
We do get presents for Sherlock.
What do you get?
I brought one along to show you.
Yeah. Good Lord, you've left it behind.
I have left it behind.
It's not
However,
a pipe, is it? No.
It's not a pipe, but it is actually a very large amount of tobacco, which you'd need for a pipe that size.
Yeah, he used to keep them in his sock, Holmes, and that's where you kept the tobacco.
In a Persian slipper.
Persian slipper.
Yes.
And then he kept his cigarettes in the coal scuttle.
His cigars.
His cigars in the coal.
Yes.
I'm nearly right. Nearly right. I'm steeped in Holmesiana, as you can hear. And one of the things he used to do, of course, apart from smoking a pipe, which I don't do, as you can see from the way I was holding it, was play the fiddle. And that's, in fact, this is my own little Strad here. And I thought it was a good example and a good chance for me to actually play the fiddle for you both, because I don't often get a chance to do it. And I learned this at my father's knee. So you want to hear it? Yeah, come on, just because it's Holmes. Give me a super. Yeah, right. 1, 2, 3, and. Thank you both very much for joining us, and sorry about the fiddle playing. Thank you, my friends.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, in a moment, we'll meet one of the best loved of all the portrayers of the great detective. But first, a glimpse of the man in action in the aforementioned A Study in Scarlet, circa 1968.
By a person's fingernails, his coat sleeve, boots, shirt cuffs, knees of his trousers, that any halfway intelligent man can tell at a glance his history or trade or profession to which he belongs. I admit that you, Holmes, from time to time have surprised me with your remarkable powers of observation, but even you would never make such a sweeping generalization.
Oh, but I would. What's more, I do.
Oh, come now.
I wrote that article myself.
Ladies and gentlemen, Peter Cushing.
I once worked for the BBC. I did that series for them, and they had this made for me, 1968. I didn't pinch it. They gave it to me in lieu of salary.
Quite. It's worth more than most salaries in 1968. Yes, and it's worn awfully well, hasn't it?
Yes, better than
it's
me.
It's kind of hop-sacking.
Hop-sack?
Yes.
Oh, incidentally...
A sturdy material.
What were you doing, dear boy, with a ear trumpet smoking?
On the pipe.
Sherlock Holmes never
wasn't a pipe.
On it. No.
Now you tell me. It's a pity you didn't speak up when you saw me trying to smoke the ear trumpet.
Well, you got it a little wrong also about the other things, didn't you? About, you know, keeping the
don't stop
cigarettes. Don't stop
picking up. Cigarettes in the cold, the cigars.
Now you ask me something.
Yeah. But did he not keep cigarettes in the cold, Scott?
No, cigars.
We've already
he
established
kept something
that.
rather nasty in the butter dish too, but I forget what it was.
Don't we all?
I say, mustn't his landlady, Mrs. Hudson, been the most kind lady, because she was extraordinary, so eccentric. I mean, to pistol practice, he shot VR, Victoria Regina, up on the, whatever that's called, at the wall. Then in one corner he had his Stinks lab. You know, he did all his chemistry. What else did he do? Play the violin. Not as well as you, but
no.
he did it.
He didn't go in for the Irish jig much.
No. I think it was more the Victoriana.
Quite, yeah.
It's very difficult to do that bit.
I didn't find it easy because, you know, it's ages since I've played the fiddle. But anyway, you see, you know a lot about Holmes. I mean, you've obviously made a study. Have you read all the books?
Oh, yes, rather.
Was that so as you could prepare for the part, or because you were interested in it?
Well, I read them originally when I was, not quite when they were first written, but a long time ago. Then when I knew I was going to do the what was that?
Nothing.
I was just a little look, yes.
Somebody walked over my grave.
When I knew I was going to do them again, I reread the stories. And of course, more recently, because of my age, they wrote a special one called The Masks of Death. And that was an original story, which Tyburn Productions did, which was lovely.
He was a moody and intolerant and rude man. I mean, did you like him? Did you?
I think it's important that the audience can identify themselves with whoever you're playing. As far as liking is concerned, I think any actor, his own personality will come across almost whatever you're playing. I mean, for me, Humphrey Bogart can do no wrong, whether he was playing a dastardly gangster or someone lovely. You just loved the chap, you know. But I think Holmes, you see, had this extraordinary mind. Watson was no fool. He says, no good playing Watson as a fool, because a chap like Holmes wouldn't put up with it.
He was played as a fool, though, in the early films, the Rathbone.
They rather played, you know, the dear old Nigel Bruce tended to play him like that, which did, I mean, there's still lovely pictures, but I don't think Holmes would have put up with a fool. It was just that he had this extraordinary mind. It was
the interplay of the two characters, because, as our friend was saying earlier, it wasn't that the plots were all that good, but it was the character drawing of Conan Doyle.
Indeed, and the wonderful atmosphere I think he created of the pea soup fogs and the horse-drawn
I suppose the drawings, the original drawings that were in the books,
the cinematic one was super. Yes.
Yeah. What about the obsession? Why do you think that there has been this strange obsession with Holmes? I mean, this year, because it's the Centenary, they went to Reichenbach Falls in Switzerland, where there was supposed to be the great struggle, the life or death struggle between the nemesis Moriarty and Holmes, and they put a plaque on the falls for something that never happened.
They're opening a museum there too. But I think the thing in all generations it's almost the grass was greener. It was a time when things were safer, one felt, you know. I wouldn't like to have gone to the dentist in those days, but I think it all looked so cosy, you know. There were coal fires where you toasted your muffins, and everything seemed so cosy, and there was no violence except that which Holmes had to go and deal with.
And everybody
himself.
died of bronchitis at about 43.
Indeed.
He didn't live very long. No,
but I think that is one of the reasons why all over the world he is so popular, because it's a period that has gone and obviously will not come again.
Yeah.
But it's people who...
Yeah, do you kind of, as a person yourself, do you yearn for the past? I mean, do you yearn for your youth, for instance?
Oh, no, good Lord. I can't wait to get old.
No. No. Well, let's hope you never do.
So much when you get old. No. There's a certain time I do yearn for a course, which was finished for me in 1971.
Sadly, when your wife died.
Yes, bless her heart. She's still with me, and I'll be with her again very soon, by the looks of me.
No, nonsense. This is the third time Peter's been on this show. And I want you to come on lots of times.
Oh, how kind
Lots
of
of times.
Yes,
Because
it's always such a pleasure.
Well, it's always such a pleasure to have you on. I mean, everybody says you're the nicest person who comes in here. And that includes the makeup ladies and everybody.
Oh,
so
bless you. You're all so wonderful. But if I may, I know it always embarrasses you, but dear boy, you do such a wonderful job. And it's not easy what this dear fellow does.
This is one of the reasons why Peter's been asked 3 times. And will be asked again, too. Yes, somebody changed. Yes. Did you enjoy doing Holmes? I mean, since we are celebrating Holmes rather than our friendship, did you enjoy doing Holmes, the deerstalk and all that?
I loved it, yes.
And what about the rather, well, the despicable habit, which seemed to be all right in the books, of smoking a little cocaine?
Yes. Well, the poor old chap, you see, when he hadn't got something else to keep his mind occupied, he had to do something. I don't know what they do today, but he did the equivalent of it. But the other little unfortunate habit I think he had was for poor old Watson. He used to have his pipe, this terrible thing, and he'd take the dottle out and put a little row of them along the mantelpiece, and then have them for breakfast. His breakfast pipe, you see.
Or in my case, his breakfast ear trumpet. How to smoke an ear trumpet. Yes, I could hardly have made more mistakes, could I?
No, you're very good. But you see, there's nothing in the book to say he didn't smoke.
Smoke an ear trumpet,
no. an ear trumpet. But Doyle is so very specific about the pipes that Holmes did smoke. He smoked different pipes for different reasons, and his favourite was a dirty old black clay thing, which stunk to high heaven. Yeah. And then he had a cherry wood, which was for, I forget, I'm sure our dear friend who was talking to you over there would know the reasons he smoked these
different pipes for
They
different
never
rules.
mentioned the meerschaum. And the how that came about was, William, am I talking too much?
Certainly not.
No, I usually William Gillette, an American actor, played Holmes on the stage. Well, to talk like this all the time with a pipe is frightfully tiring for 2 hours on the stage. So he had one that would rest on his, this thing, what's this called? You're breaking it at rugger. Collarbone.
On Mazard, yeah.
So it hung down so he was able to talk. That is how the meerschaum was born.
Stabbed me vitals. Peter?
They always do look to me like ear trumpets, don't they?
Peter, I hope you're going to stay for a bit. Will you?
I would love to.
Good. In the meantime, our thanks to Peter Cushing. Peter's staying with us, and he's staying with us every night as far as I'm concerned. And just to remind you, tomorrow night's 40 minutes will be 70 minutes, all of them devoted to Sherlock Holmes. So if you haven't had enough tonight, there's more. There's more. Now, as is often the way, fact can be stronger than fiction, even Conan Doyle's fiction. And behind the door of room 104 at New Scotland Yard lurks one of the most famous museums in the world, the Yard's Black Museum. Edgar Lustgarten, where are you now? You don't remember me, he's giving me age away. Displayed in the museum is all manner of hideousness. Human skulls, dismembered arms, vicious weapons, devilishly cunning tools of destruction. Very much like the office of our own dear DG. So welcome the curator of Scotland Yard's Black Museum, Bill Waddell. What was that piece of music Harry Stoneham played there? Was that anything to do with policemen?
Well, it's rather lovely, wasn't it?
It was nice.
Nice, relaxing music to sit
Yes,
down to.
he's been around a long time, Harry. He plays a lot of Victorian stuff. Now, you're a retired officer. Are you a fan of Sherlock Holmes?
Well, I've read Sherlock Holmes stories. Yeah. I've been through them, and I've read them and found them quite interesting. Yeah. But I'm not exactly a fan. I'm dealing with too much real-life stuff to be too involved. Well, you are. I mean, you're the one who turns on the lights, presumably, turns off the lights at night and turns on the lights in the morning in the Black Museum. Do you ever get a shiver up the spine and the hackles rise in the back of your neck? No, I'm dealing with it all day, every day. It's not so much dealing with items which are in a museum, which are all stationary, and they're not moving around too much either.
But some of them are pretty horrific.
Well, yes, but if you go to the scene of crime and you see these things as part of your life, you just accept them as part and parcel of the work that you're doing. And the museum is very much an area where we instruct on matters relating to each of the crimes that we have on display.
Oh, I see. So it's not just a place for people which you have to invite come, because you can't walk in and see the Black Museum, can you?
Oh, no, you cannot walk in. Stress that, Terry, because you cannot walk in. We have bookings now some 3 to 6 months ahead of people coming from all over the world to hear lectures that I give in the museum.
What, you give a lecture based on these sometimes objects of death, or?
Well, if you are a pathologist, we'll give a lecture on pathology relating to the 850 cases there. If you're a forensic scientist, we'll talk to you about the forensic science aspects, and so on and so forth.
How do you get the objects? I mean, every case, does the local DI ring you up and say, "Here, I've got a good one for you here"?
I have first call on the items used in crimes within the Metropolitan Police. No. Not right across the country, only within the Metropolitan Police. And if I feel a crime has 2 uses, one, it is of historical interest, and 2, instructional interest, then we will put it in the museum.
You have some exhibits, A, B, C, D, and E there, Forrest Bill. Let's have a look at a couple that
Well, have a look at this first, Terry.
All right.
There we are. Have a look at that. There we are.
It's a pencil.
A pencil.
No, I mean, I haven't seen these before, so that's a pencil.
A simple pencil.
Yeah.
There's 2 interesting things about that. One, it's a 4H, which is very hard, and that was kept in a box of very soft 2B pencils. But the end, when you undo it, is a place where spies keep microdots. Oh, Lord. And you can see in there that although the pencil looks very realistic, it can conceal things that spies
A little micro, and in fact, was that used by the Krogers?
Used by the Krogers. The psychology, of course, if you pick a very hard pencil out, you can't write with it, then you immediately put it back in and get one that you can write with.
Yeah, but I mean, who was the bright boy who discovered that in a box of pencils?
Well, there we are. That's the sort of things we find when we go to the scenes of these crimes. Interesting things. There's some intriguing items here. Have a look at this. There we are. I'm not trying to upstage Paul Daniels.
Can we see that? Yeah. That's a 10p piece.
There we are. 10p piece.
Yeah.
Now you see it.
Yeah.
And now you don't. But that is a 10p piece that's hollowed out. And in there, on tiny pieces of paper, they put spots of LSD, a hallucinatory drug, and they carry it around with them.
Sherlock Holmes could have used one of those.
Well, this man was no Sherlock Holmes, I can assure you. He put it in a one-armed bandit and lost it, including...
That's just an example of what presumably LSD could do to you as well. Yes, one of those drugs that helps you lose your mind. What else have you got there, Bill? Because these are fascinating. Well, we should give a whole program to this.
Well,
such a charming daughter to come home to after all this.
Bill brought his daughter. She's up in hospitality.
The intriguing thing about this is that it is an item which was made by an 8-year-old child. Now, the sadness of this is that here is a child, 8 years of age, who has assaulted 4 children, and one has nearly lost an eye. Very serious problems in hospital with him. And ultimately he's seen by police, and as he's 8 years of age, he cannot be charged. He has to be seen and interviewed. In the course of the interview, it transpires that the child was permitted to watch a pornographic sadomasochistic video. And in consequence of that, he made that particular item.
A golf ball with 2-inch nails driven into it.
The tragedy of that, the ongoing tragedy, is that when the parents were asked did they think it was the right thing for a child of such tender years to see, police were told, mind your own business, we are widening the child's attitude to life. 3 years later, that child is in a remedial school for disruptors. There's the sadness of it. That's just one aspect of the offensive weapons in the museum, which is...
On which you can base a lecture, on which you can talk to people. What else have you got? 'Cause it's great, isn't it? You like this, Peter? Well, I'm fascinated by
Well,
this.
let's go on to a case. Let's take a case. Now, this case is magic. This is Crippen. You remember Crippen?
Yeah.
Hawley Harvey Crippen, Dr. Hawley Harvey Crippen. And Dr. Crippen had murdered his wife, and Cora, and buried her in the basement of 39 Hilldrop Crescent. And then he went over to America with his mistress, Ethel Lenave. And he was brought back after Inspector Dew went out there, intercepted the boat and brought it back to this country. Now, Crippen was tried separately to Ethel Lenave. And what convicted Crippen is this tiny little label that you see here. On the fifth day of the trial, Crippen was asked whether he'd purchased any pyjamas from Jones Brothers at Holloway Limited. He said he hadn't. He was asked, was he absolutely sure? He said, absolutely positive. The next witness went into the box and said that Jones Brothers Holloway Limited, as on that label, had become a limited company in 1906, proving that Crippen was lying. The next witness went into the box and said they found 3 pairs in the house, one of which had the pyjama jacket missing, and that's the pyjama jacket that was found in the grave at 39 Hilldrop Crescent.
And that helped to convict Crippen.
That convicted Crippen.
Oh, amazing. Bill, as I said, one day perhaps we can sit together and do a whole program about this, because it's extraordinary, isn't it? Thank you for joining us. Bill Waddell from the Black Museum. Thank you, Bill. Thank you.